back to episode 4 of Revolutionary Roads, a podcast of the North Carolina History Project here at the John Locke Foundation. I'm Donald Bryson, CEO of the John Locke Foundation, and we're happy to walk you through the road of revolution as it went through North Carolina. And we're talking about the very rich history of North Carolina in the American Revolution. We've got a great guest here with us today to talk about what turns into the Battle of Moores Creek, or the Battle of Moores Creek Bridge. Some people live off the bridge, some people don't. But today we've got Jim McKee here with us. He's a site manager down at Brunswick Town and Fort Anderson. It's a state historic site here in North Carolina, and he's been down in southeastern North Carolina for about 4 decades now, long enough, we were joking beforehand, to be part of the furniture and to be called a local down there, but to also walk us through this important event in southeastern North Carolina. But tell us a little bit about the state historic site where you work at. It's close to the battlefield that we're talking about.
It is. Brunswick Town's the first permanent settlement on the lower Cape Fear. It's where everything begins. It predates Wilmington. It was the first international port for North Carolina. Mm-hmm. It was the site of one of the first, if not the first, successful armed rebellions against British authority in America during the Stamp Act crisis in 1766, which, by the way, is where the seeds of revolution are planted. It's in that time period. It was abandoned starting February 14th, 1776, on the eve of the first British invasion of the South. They knew that these loyalists and these Highlanders were coming to meet up with a British army and a British fleet being sent across to subjugate North Carolina. Right.
And so you've done a great setup of the history. We didn't go all the way back. Our first episode was dealt with the War of Regulation, or the Regulator movement in North Carolina, and that culminated in May of 1771 at the Battle of Alamance, which is out in Alamance County, fittingly, if you want to go visit that. That's another state historic site here in North Carolina. But what we walked through so far was the War of Regulation, which kind of sparked, it wasn't quite a revolutionary movement, but it definitely caused bad feelings against colonial government, and then to take a more global view here, in not just North Carolina, but then we have the Boston Tea Party that happens in Boston, and the ladies of Edenton, North Carolina, do the Edenton Resolves, the Edenton Tea Party in October of 1774. That leads us to the Mecklenburg Declaration, or the Mecklenburg Resolves, and maybe there are 2 documents, maybe they're 1 document. We've discussed that in a previous podcast. And then it seems like there's a quiet period between the Mecklenburg Resolves and the Battle of Moores Creek, but it's not really quiet. It's just a long period of transition. The Mecklenburg Resolves comes out. The colonial government essentially collapses. Governor Josiah Martin abandons New Bern, where Tryon Palace is now today. Governor Tryon's up in New York at this point because he's been reassigned to New York, but Governor Josiah Martin, and of course this is the part of history where we start hearing county and town names that we're familiar with, and we'll hear Caswell and Lillington today. But the government collapses in May of 1775. Governor Martin spends a long time on the HMS Cruiser, a British warship, basically just in the Cape Fear River off of what's now Southport, right?
Correct.
And then we get into the winter. There's the 3rd Provincial Congress. They set up a provincial government of some sort. It's actually the 5th Provincial Congress that writes our first state constitution, but that doesn't come till 1776. But then we get to the winter of 1775 and 1776. And what happens?
So you've got to go back to July 19th, 1775.
Okay.
When Josiah Martin has taken refuge at Fort Johnston, which is in what's now Southport. Right at the mouth of the Cape Fear. And patriots from Wilmington, Brunswick, later on Bladen County, marched down and burned the fort within shooting distance of HMS Cruiser and Governor Martin.
Yeah.
And the British do nothing. They watch.
They just watch it burn.
They just watch it
and
burn.
It literally burned.
It was literally burned to the ground.
Okay.
Yep. Anything that they could burn, they burned.
All right.
And when Josiah Martin wrote his report to Lord Dartmouth Dartmouth's reply literally rakes him over the coals.
And Dartmouth essentially I can't recall, and forgive me, is he the foreign minister at the time, or is he sort of the minister over the Americas?
He's kind of minister of the Americas.
Okay, got it.
And he rakes Martin over the coals for the insulting of allowing His Majesty's property be destroyed within gunshot range.
Right.
But either way, this goes all the way up to the King, Parliament, the High Command, Whitehall, and you've got to look at the correspondence between Whitehall and the British High Command in America.
Okay.
Where they're explaining, because of what happens in North Carolina, that is going to dictate the conduct of the war going forward. And even though it's not a war yet, but they decide they need to subjugate the southern colonies. That's the weak underbelly.
Right.
And even though they don't come out and say, prosecute North Carolina with extreme prejudice, they allude to that. So this whole Southern campaign is going to be aimed at North Carolina.
Right.
And
of course, let me interrupt if you don't mind. Gunshots have been fired at this point, not necessarily in North Carolina, but
they're in North Carolina.
But the shot heard around the world. The battles of Lexington and Concord have happened in April of 1775,
Correct.
And then Fort Johnston gets burned in July of 1775, and that's where you are right now.
Right, and all through July into November, there's shots being fired between the Royal Navy and North Carolina Patriots around Fort Johnston, the ruins of the fort.
Right.
So there's already shots being fired all in the Cape Fear.
I see.
And Martin comes up with the idea that there's enough loyalists in North Carolina, enough Scottish Highlanders and regulators, that he can create a loyalist army. All he needs is some support from the Army and the Navy. And as a result, Britain commits Cornwallis's army, which is basically the Irish garrison. And they're scheduled to be rotated out of Ireland first of the year, 76. And they decide, instead of transferring them back to England, they're going to transfer them to the south, to North Carolina. And they put together a fleet under Peter Parker. And
that's not Spider-Man.
That's not Spider-Man. Before he was Spider-Man, Peter Parker was a Commodore in the Royal Navy. And the whole operation is going to be under General Sir Henry Clinton.
Okay.
So Clinton will arrive in March of 76, but the Army and the Navy won't make it here until May.
Okay.
But in the meantime, the whole operation is the Highlanders, the Loyalists, and the Army and the Navy. They're all supposed to rendezvous around Brunswick Town by the 1st of March of 76.
Okay. Can we talk about the Highlanders just a little bit? Because there's a rich history there, and it's strange how we ended up here. So, if you look at the royal crest, if you go to Tryon Palace, for example, they'll have the royal crest there in the common room where the royal council would meet, and you'll notice that there's a unicorn there with a chain on it, and that was a symbol in the royal crest that they had conquered and chained Scotland. The unicorn is the national animal, even if it's not real, of Scotland, and it was thought that the reason that was the case is because that was the only animal that could defeat a lion, which is the national symbol and animal of Great Britain, right? And so they've chained Scotland, and a lot of these Scottish Highlanders, either they or their children had been involved in the 1745 rebellion with Prince Charles Stuart, Bonnie Prince Charlie, and this is 30 years before. Can you kind of walk us to that history and how we get a bunch of Highland Scots in the Cape Fear?
So the first Highland Scots arrive in the Cape Fear, believe it or not, in 1739.
Okay.
It's the Argyle colony. It's about 300, a little over 300. And they arrive in the Cape Fear, arrive at Brunswick, and Governor Gabriel Johnston sends them up the river to a place called Cross Creek, which we now call Fayetteville.
Right.
And they're given property, given land grants, but the hook is 10 years tax free.
Okay.
So no taxes for 10 years.
That's compelling.
And let's get more of them in here. North Carolina, Governor Dobbs, Johnson's predecessor, had bought hundreds of thousands of acres of land in the western part of the colony for Irish immigration. That didn't pan out. So a lot of that land before Dobbs gets here is taken over by the Highlanders.
Okay.
Through Johnston. Then Culloden, the Battle of Culloden takes place. Bonnie Prince Charles is forced to flee with the help of Flora MacDonald.
A name we'll hear again.
Yes. And it just, with everything that comes out of the fallout from Culloden, the breaking up of the clans, high taxes, quit rents, everything else, it was easier for a lot of the Highlanders to just leave and go to or come to America.
Right.
And North Carolina's government promoted that. Again, giving rent-free.
Right.
No quit rents. I mean, just land grants and just giving them opportunities. Letting the Highlanders know that as people, they're valued more in America and in North Carolina than they are in Scotland.
Sure.
And it worked. By 1775, there's 30,000 plus Highlanders in North Carolina.
Nonetheless, that still puts them at having been in rebellion, or their fathers having been in rebellion, to them being, they're the loyalists at this point. Why is that the case?
Well, they, for the most part, those that survived Culloden and those that survived 45 signed an oath to stay loyal to the king. And so that was good for the ones who signed the oath. It was good for some of the sons who came over. They would stay loyal. Others, no.
Okay.
We're not going to be loyal. Martin estimated that at least 2/3 of those Highlanders would stay loyal. So he figured about 20. When he showed the king's banner in North Carolina, 20,000 Highlanders would flock to it.
Okay.
5,000 regulators would flock to it. And he said all he needed were arms, ammunition, and regulars to support him.
Okay.
And he could subjugate North Carolina, splitting the South in half, letting North Carolina be the springboard for the British Army to take Charleston to the south, and at the same time maybe move north into Virginia, and eventually have their armies in the north move south, and the two armies would link somewhere in the middle.
And cut off South Carolina and Georgia.
Right.
So Governor Martin's sitting in the HMS cruiser in the Cape Fear River. He doesn't really have a government, but he's trying to put together some military force to sort of take back the state. And he puts out this call for essentially volunteers to meet the Army on the coast. Of course, the Army, as you mentioned earlier, is going to come in later, but we're hitting February 1776.
Yes.
And you said he wanted what? Did you say 5,000 Highlanders?
He thought he'd get 5,000 regulators.
5,000 regulars.
15 to 20,000 Highlanders.
Well, the Battle of Moores Creek Bridge had better be a lot of people then, if that's the case.
Believe it.
But how many folks did he get?
Not that many. So in around February 5th, he sends his emissaries out into the backcountry to start recruiting. He's already got officers. The British Army has already sent down 2 officers, Donald MacDonald and Donald McLeod, who were part of the 84th Regiment, which was the Loyal Highland immigrants.
And who's Donald MacDonald in this? We heard the MacDonald name come up before.
Donald MacDonald is a distant cousin of Flora.
Okay.
And Allen. Actually, more Allen, her husband.
Okay.
But he's actually from Canada. He is a major in the British Army.
Okay.
But he's with the 84th, the 2nd Battalion of the 84th. Martin is planning to recruit these Highlanders to form a 3rd Battalion of the 84th.
I see.
Now, the problem with Martin is he's in the business of king building.
Okay.
And he requests from the king that he be reinstated as a lieutenant colonel in the army. He was formerly a lieutenant colonel before he was governor.
So he bought his commission or something like that.
Yeah, it was typical.
Like everybody else did.
Like everyone else did. He purchased his commission, but he got sick, had to retire from the army, and so he sold his commission and then became a lieutenant governor in the West Indies, lieutenant governor in North Carolina, and then eventually governor. But he wanted to get that commission back so he could lead this army.
I see.
And when he gets turned down for that, he instead takes this relatively unknown major, Donald McDonald, and promotes him to brigadier general.
Okay.
In North Carolina Provincial Army.
That's quite a leap for folks who want to keep up with military ranks.
Right. Now, the interesting thing about McDonald is he is a veteran of Bunker Hill.
Okay.
He was at the Battle of Bunker Hill, slightly wounded. Several of those officers that came down initially were veterans of Bunker Hill. So Donald McDonald is helping to organize this Highland Army. He's got commissions and blank commissions, and they're handing out commissions to the higher-ups in the North Carolina Highlanders like candy, making captains like there's no tomorrow.
Sure.
And they start recruiting, but they're not getting the numbers they think. Instead of 5,000 regulators, there's 500. And when they go to meet them, there's none.
Oh, well.
And then eventually 250 to 300 show up and come down to Cross Creek. Instead of 20,000 or 15,000, they get about 1,500 Highlanders.
Yeah.
That's still a sizable army for that time period.
Sure.
Unfortunately, they are not all armed. They have to get arms in. And then as the weeks go by, there's some desertions, there's some people that change heart. But when they march off, yes, there's close to 1,000 Highlanders and maybe 200 regulators. But as they march down the Cape Fear River and crisscross the Cape Fear River and dodging Caswell's army and all this, the weather is horrible.
Yeah.
It's raining, it's cold, it's February.
It's February in North Carolina.
Yeah, it's February in the lower Cape Fear. And so there is attrition. There's quite a few desertions. Most of the regulators go.
Okay.
Most of the regulators leave.
Just
vanish. Walk away.
Okay.
In the middle of the night, just walk away. And then a few others. I think when it's all said and done, within days of the battle, the actual Battle of Moores Creek, when they have their rah-rah, they have their last gathering and their rah-rah speech, about 20 Highlanders decided they did not have the spine to fight and were allowed to leave. Okay. As long as they left their arms with the rest of the Highlanders.
So we get to, they're making their way from Cross Creek, current day Fayetteville, and there's a whole Revolutionary War reason for that, but that's for a later time. And they're working their way down the Cape Fear River, and we get to late February, and they're coming up to Moores Creek, which is northwest of Wilmington.
Correct.
And for anybody interested in geography, Moores Creek is a tributary of the Black River. The Black River is a tributary of the Cape Fear River and comes out still northwest, or on the northwest side of Wilmington today. What happens when we get to February 26th, February 27th of 1776?
So on the 26th, they have the Council of War and decide that they've sent an emissary to Caswell's army, who is at Moores Creek Bridge.
So the loyalists, the Highlander loyalists, have sent an emissary to the Patriot Army.
Correct.
And Caswell is commanding the Patriot militia, essentially.
He's got the troops right there, and they're on the loyalist side of the bridge. Mm-hmm. And so this emissary comes in and asks Caswell to surrender. Mm-hmm. You know, if you lay down your arms, everything's forgotten. Y'all can leave.
Yeah.
And Caswell says, "Well, we got to talk about it," which means no, we're not.
Right.
So the emissary leaves. And when he leaves, we don't know if this was purposeful for Caswell to be on that side of the creek, or it was afterwards he realized his mistake. Or his men were on that side of the creek while James Keenan was on the opposite side building earthworks, getting the positions ready. And that was Caswell's opportunity to block any searching eyes.
Yeah. And Caswell, of course, would be the namesake of Fort Caswell down.
Fort Caswell, first full governor of North Carolina.
Yeah, and
Caswell County.
And he was also an officer with Governor Tryon's militia on the side of the royal governor at the Battle of Alamance. So
all of the Patriot officers at Moores Creek were part of Tryon's army that defeated the regulators.
And so they've sort of changed sides. They would probably argue that they haven't changed sides, but that the government had changed itself. But Caswell's against the royal governor at this point.
Correct. Well, and that's a different story. Talking about why you have this change of heart. It's really not a change of heart; it's a change of pocketbooks.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like anything. But Caswell, after the emissary leaves, it's several hours before anything happens. The Highlanders decide that they're gonna go ahead and attack Caswell while he's on that side of the creek. Mm-hmm. But the only problem is they're about 7 miles away, and they've got a nasty swamp they've got to cross.
Right.
In the dark.
Yeah.
It's been raining. The creeks are higher. The swamp's flooded. So they've got to march through that creek. It takes them almost all night.
Yeah, going through cold mud's not
it's not fun. I do it quite a bit at the site. But in that time period, Caswell abandons his camp, moves to the opposite side of the creek in fortified positions.
Right.
But he leaves the campfires burning so that when the Highlanders approach, they send some scouts out. They can see the fires, and the Highlanders decide to break up into 2 to 3 columns of men, and they head in. And when they get into the camp and see the fires are just fizzling by then, they've been abandoned for a while. They realize
they've been duped.
They've been duped, right? So what they then do is form a line of battle, and you've got Donald.
What time of day are we talking about?
We're talking 5 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning.
In February.
In February.
So it's dark.
It's dark. Dark, damp, probably a little misty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nasty. And a group of about 40, which is basically the middle section of the Highlander army, gets separated, gets lost, kind of, and they follow the road down towards the bridge. Now, this is contrary to most of what we've all been taught, that the Battle of Moores Creek Bridge is the last real broadsword charge.
I think they say that at the site.
They say that at the site, and it is the last grand broadsword charge, but it's not the grand broadsword charge we think about.
Right.
There was, from one account that I've got, and this is an eyewitness account, one of the loyalists comes out and says there was only 20 broadswords in the whole army, and they were given to picked men who were kept in the middle.
I'm guessing fairly large fellas.
Oh, yeah, they would be fairly large fellas. And so you got those 20 broadswordmen, then you've got 20 more men with them, and McLeod and Campbell as their officers.
Right.
And by the time they make it to the bridge, another British Highlander officer has already approached the bridge. When he gets to the bridge, he's challenged by Patriots on the opposite side, saying, "Who goes there?" And he replies, "A friend." To which the next question, "A friend of who?" He says, "The king." And he said in the little bit of light there was, he saw everyone on the other side of the bridge just lay down. So he replied in Gaelic, asking the question, because he thought maybe there was Highlanders on the other side.
Sure.
So in Gaelic, he asked, "Who goes there?" And when he got no answer,
Because they didn't know what he said.
right.
Yeah.
And they had already fired, the Patriots had already fired one shot when they spotted him. When they didn't answer, he fired his pistol.
Yeah.
And that's when these 40 men come up.
Okay.
And that's when they realize the planks of the bridge have been pulled up,
Yeah.
and they make their charge.
If you go down to the state, or not, it's not a state. It's part of the national park system. They've preserved the battlefield, and I urge anybody who's listened to the podcast, go down to southeast North Carolina, visit the site. It's really interesting. If you walk the full track of the battlefield, it's 1 mile. It's not like if you visit one of these large Civil War battlefields where you're driving 10, 20 miles. It's very short. Doesn't take long to walk. But they've got a recreation of the bridge. It's not the original bridge,
No.
but we know what colonial law was at the time for what a public bridge, how it should have been built. And so they recreated the bridge that's there now to those standards.
Correct.
But they get there and half the planks are up, and
Right.
they've greased the bridge.
Yeah, oh yeah, they've greased it with tallow and soap and everything else to make them slicker and eel snot, as a good southeastern North Carolina term. And they've got to literally pull themselves across, put their swords in the sleepers,
Into the wood and
work
work across.
themselves across.
Wow.
Right. When they get across
In the middle of the night.
in the middle of the night.
All right.
Now, they make their charge, and then the Patriot line opens up. And all the way up here, I was trying to figure out how many men actually fired because it's damp.
Yeah.
The powder is not the black powder that we have today, which is somewhat waterproofed. So I'd say they probably, about 30% of the men who were on the firing line just went click.
That's got to be a bad feeling.
But still, when you've got, say Castle has 800 men there.
Yeah.
You take out 30%, that's still a high number of guns that are firing at 40 men.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got anywhere from 2 to 5 cannons firing.
Yeah.
So
name Mother Hubbard and Mother Hubbard's
Mother
daughter.
Covington and
Mother
her
Covington,
daughter.
not Mother Hubbard. Mother Covington.
Mother Covington and her daughter. Right. Now, in the meantime, the rest of the Highlanders are on the other side of the bank. They've fanned out into a battle line. They are just inside the trees lining the creek bank. They're firing, but they're basically firing into the dark.
Yeah.
And you're talking about long range. And not trained. Most of these guys are not trained. They're not disciplined. There's very few hits, if any, at that range.
Right.
The
guns are, by their nature, inaccurate at long range.
Actually, no.
Okay. Okay.
There's a misconception about flintlocks.
Okay.
And they are very accurate if they're using a fitted ball.
Okay.
So one of the things about the primary British weapon was the Brown Bess.
Right.
And depending on which arsenal it was made, it could be anywhere from 73 to 75 caliber.
Right. We think 50 caliber is really big
We
nowadays.
think 50 is big. You're talking about a 3/4 inch ball, but they're firing a 69 caliber ball. That way, your rate of fire is much greater. Your accuracy is not that great with a ball that small, but your rate of fire, and the rate of fire in the Revolutionary War was everything.
Okay.
Now, the Americans, Patriots, are firing, most of them are going to be firing whatever guns they brought with them.
Yeah.
Their guns. And they are going to have balls that are fitted. The rate of fire is going to be much slower, but the accuracy and the range is going to be better.
Okay.
So
Okay. That's
in a fight like that, yeah, the Patriots would have the advantage.
sure. Sure. And they're not slipping and sliding coming across a bridge in the dark.
Correct.
So let's take we're at the point of battle, right? The shots are being fired. And we've spent a long time talking about the leaders on the loyalist side. Can you talk to me a little bit about the leaders on the Patriot side? Talk to me about Richard Caswell and Alexander Lillington, who these men are and why they're there.
These are men of wealth and prestige, and a lot of times, especially 18th, 19th century, your armies being volunteer armies, the men are going to vote for who they would want to lead them.
Sure.
Now, in some cases, like with Caswell, he's going to be given a commission from North Carolina.
Okay.
He's got some experience. He's got some military experience. They're all going to have some. But these men stand out from the others, mainly because of social status.
No.
The thing about the Patriots at Moores Creek is they suffered from an overabundance of leadership. There's a lot of men that were associated with that army. Any one of those men could have led.
Sure.
The man who probably was the best qualified, James Moore or Mad Jimmy, didn't make it in time.
Okay.
To work the strategy. So it falls on Caswell and Lillington and Keenan. The loyalists, yeah, they're suffering from a lack of leadership.
Right.
Yeah, General McDonald gets sick,
That's right.
and he's not even at the battle.
Yeah.
And but yeah, with the Patriots, they've had time to prepare for this. They know their men. They know the capabilities of their men. You can't really say they're fighting on home turf.
Right.
At this point, this is not a war, it's a civil war.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to realize there's Highlanders in the Patriot cause at Moores Creek.
Sure. Sure.
There may be non-Highlanders in the Loyalist side. We don't know.
Right.
But the Patriots know their men. They know their abilities. They know what they can do, what they can't do, what they will do, and what they won't do. How long they'll stand.
Right.
All the advantages right there. Plus, they've got the ground.
Right. They do.
They got the ground and they got the numbers.
They do. Of course, Richard Caswell has a long history after this. Goes on to be governor of North Carolina.
He'll be North Carolina's first state governor.
So, spoiler alert, he survives this.
Yeah, he survives.
So we left off as the battle's commencing. The Patriots are beginning to shoot. The British or the Highlanders, the Tories, whatever you want to call them, are just getting across the bridge, getting on to the banks of the creek. And walk us through the rest of the battle. It doesn't take long.
It does not take long. Depending on whose account you read, the actual fighting. Now, the whole battle is probably not more than about a half hour, 45 minutes. But the actual fighting, what's going on right there at the bridge, where there's casualties occurring, lasts somewhere between 3 and 8 minutes. That's it.
That's real fast.
Yeah, because you're not talking about a high rate of fire. The cannons maybe got 2 rounds off.
That'd be enough to make me think twice about what I was doing.
Definitely, it would. If anyone was close enough, because more than likely those guns aren't firing ball. They're firing what they would call quilted grape. Which is basically turning those guns into a shotgun.
Yeah, and for listeners of the podcast, we discussed grape shot and canister shot at the Battle of Alamance. Then
Correct.
The technology has not advanced much.
No, and it doesn't. It really doesn't. What changes with guns is the materials they're made out of and their ignition.
Right.
Instead of quills and lint stocks and port fires, in the 19th century they go to a friction primer.
Right.
So that's about it.
Yeah.
The ammunition is going to be the same.
Yeah.
But
even up to the Civil War, really.
Even up to the late unpleasantness.
Yeah, the late
As I call it. The cannons loading and firing a cannon in the dark is difficult.
Sure.
Even with someone who's experienced, and I've got 30 years experience with 18th and 19th century artillery. And yeah, it's difficult in the dark. When you're under fire and it's wet and it's dark, see, it's even slower.
Yeah.
The men firing from the earthworks, the men with the small arms. Yes, a trained British soldier was required to fire 3 rounds a minute. A militiaman under fire, truly undisciplined militiaman under fire, will be lucky to get a round off in a minute.
Yeah.
So the rate of fire is not going to be that great. You're going to have some that'll get 2 rounds off in a minute. You'll get some that will only get a round off. Plus, with it being damp, the guns are going to be unreliable.
Right.
So the firing is going to be sporadic,
Sure.
and scattered, and just not uniform.
Yeah.
It's still going to be intense because you're still putting as much lead down range as you can. But once there's nobody in their line of fire,
Yeah.
firing's going to stop.
Sure.
McLeod and Campbell were both riddled with musket balls.
Oh, wow.
When their bodies were found. And right now, it probably, of the men who made it across the bridge or made it to the bridge, about probably 3/4 of them were casualties.
Okay.
And it's literally the men who don't make it across the bridge who are casualties, or those who get wounded on the bridge and then pulled off. When they start bringing those wounded men into the loyalist lines and these guys see the wounds,
Yeah.
that's about the time the loyalists start collapsing.
Yeah.
And start filing off the field.
Right.
And of course, it's going to start in the middle.
And by this time, we're at 5:45, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Probably not even. It's
Okay.
probably still dark.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably still dark or just beginning to get a little light.
Okay.
Probably just beginning to get a little light because they'll have to be able to see these wounds.
Yeah.
Plus, they're probably using torches and that sort of thing. But once those wounded loyalists start being brought in, that's when the nerve starts to break.
Right.
And that's when the loyalists start filing back. And it'll start in the middle and then filter out to the flanks so that eventually word gets out to the flanks and everyone just starts moving out.
Sure.
The Patriots loiter around for a little bit, not knowing what's on the other side of the creek. Eventually they cross, but it's several hours, it's daylight. They realize the Loyalists are already gone, so the Loyalists have a good head start on them. But because they're demoralized, when they get to their point of rendezvous where they had left their wagons and supplies, when they got there, they found that some of the deserters had taken all the wagons and supplies.
So a bad day turned worse.
A bad day turned worse, yeah. And they basically leave Donald McDonald, their general, in a house, in a dilapidated house, when they leave, and he gets captured.
Right.
Some of the Highlanders just disappear into the swamps, and eventually will make their way, weeks later, will make their way down to the mouth of the river. The others, the more organized group, keeps moving up towards Cross Creek.
Okay.
By the time they get to Cross Creek, they find Cross Creek is occupied by Patriots. They're cut off, and they have no choice but to surrender.
Yeah. So this is a sharp fight involving how many men would you say on each side?
I'd say you'd have 25 to 3,000 total.
Yeah.
Both sides.
So not a lot.
Not a lot. And really, it all depends on whose accounts you read.
Sure.
The Patriots could have had as few as 800 or as many as 1,300.
Right.
The Loyalists could have had anywhere from 800 to 1,500.
Right. I think when we think of maybe I'm just projecting on myself, but before you start reading about the Revolutionary War, we get a lot more detail, and there are good reasons for that, about the Civil War. In those battles, you hear about, Lee has 86,000 men at Gettysburg, and Meade has 110,000 at Gettysburg. Like, these are, armies the sizes of, medium-sized cities, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's not really what's happening here at all. And battles of that scale don't really happen in the Revolution. They get much larger than what we're talking about at Morse Creek.
Right.
But Morse Creek is a sharp, short fight of relatively small number of men.
Correct. And untrained.
So we have these Scottish Highlanders who were supposed to be making their way to the coast to join they were making their way to the coast in February to join regulars that would meet them in April, May, something like that. They've been cut off. That didn't happen. A good bit of them surrendered to the Patriots.
Correct.
Or, were cut off back, trying to make their way back to Cross Creek. What does this do to the Loyalist movement in North Carolina here in early 1776?
It puts the Loyalist movement underground.
Okay.
There's no way to crush it. Mm-hmm. But it puts it underground, and it'll stay for the most part underground until 1781, when the British come back and occupy Wilmington.
Is it fair to say that the Battle of Morse Creek prevented a British invasion of the South until 1781, or delayed it at least?
It delayed it. So the importance of Morse Creek Bridge is, morally, it's the first true Patriot victory of the Revolutionary War. It also keeps North Carolina from going back under royal control.
Yeah.
Which, if, like I mentioned before, if that had happened, if North Carolina had been able to be subjugated, then it is now a base of operations that separates South Carolina and Georgia from the rest of the South, and as a springboard to go into Virginia and possibly meet up with a British force coming from the north,
right? Come from Boston or New York, or something like that.
So they could just, if that had happened, the British would have had an easier time carving up the colonies and recapturing them as they felt like it.
So this small fight actually had broad
Huge
military
repercussions.
implications.
Yes.
But so it drove the Loyalist movement sort of underground. But what did it do for the Patriot cause?
Oh, for the Patriot cause, it was huge. It's not only that moral victory. I mean, you think about it. They had Lexington and Concord, which was celebrated. Bunker Hill is a tactical defeat, but kind of a strategic victory, because it showed the British that Americans were not afraid to fight.
Yeah.
And they would fight fiercely.
And it showed Americans that, hey, we can take a punch and land one too.
And land one, correct. And you'll see that throughout the war. So early on, it gives us confidence. It gives Americans plus North Carolinians confidence.
Yeah.
They can stand. For example, in North Carolina, we've already taken out Fort Johnston. We've already expelled our royal governor for all intent and purposes.
He's in a boat in the river.
He's in a boat in the river. Yeah, he's not governing anything.
Right.
We've defeated what they would say a loyalist army that was led by one-time British regulars. So yeah, the North Carolinians are feeling good about this.
Yeah.
And so in April 12th, that's going to prompt North Carolina to create the Halifax Resolves, which is going to give North Carolina delegates to Continental Congress the ability to vote for independence.
That's right.
It comes up.
That's right. And that's actually our next episode in this podcast. And so that's a great segue to that. And I really appreciate you bringing it up. What would you tell people they can expect to see if they were ever to go down? You talked to us about the side that you manage, but if people went to the Morse Creek battlefield, what would they see? What's it like down there?
So Morse Creek National Battlefield, believe it or not, I think it's the smallest military park
It might
in
be.
the system.
It
I
wouldn't
think it's the
surprise me.
smallest. Well, it was. Let me rephrase that. It was. It was only about 80 acres. I think they've just added 2,000 acres. But at one time, yes, it was the smallest. But when you go out there, you describe the bridge, the creek meanders. It's beautiful, beautiful walking trails that go around it. But the earthworks, I've always had a hard time understanding why they built those earthworks where they did. But I went back and looked back into the 1930s to an archaeological report. And when the federal archaeologists went out there in the 1930s, that's what they found.
Okay.
They didn't find the earthworks that we see today, but they could see the outline of these small earthworks. And so they reproduced them.
They tried to reproduce them to the best of their ability.
So when you go out there, you see the earthwork system that the Patriots built. It's very crude, very rudimentary, but you know, it's there. You can walk that ground.
Right. It's a really interesting piece of North Carolina history. I urge people to take a trip down to southeast North Carolina, go to Morse Creek. It actually doesn't take long. Even if you take your time to go through the whole site, it doesn't take long. And then they should head on down and see Jim.
Please do.
Down at Brunswick Town.
Go to Morse Creek in the fall or the spring.
Yeah, don't go in the dead of summer.
Go in the dead of summer
because it's a swamp.
It's a swamp, and you'll need bug spray.
Yeah, a lot of bug spray.
You'll be on first name basis with the mosquitoes.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
I look forward to going with our audience through the rest of it, and you set us up perfectly to talk about the Halifax Resolves next. But thank you for talking about the battle that set us up to be the first state in freedom. Jim, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate all that you had to share. For everybody listening, Jim's words today have set us up to talk about the Halifax Resolves and what made North Carolina first in freedom, which will be our next episode. If you like what you hear on the podcast, be sure to like and subscribe, share with your friends, and listen to wherever you listen to your podcasts.